Hello and welcome to Falcon's Ledge. I'm Ostringer and you are watching our hardware review for the Winwing Orion Throttle. It seemed that everything was against me in getting these last few reviews out, from technical issues to me finally collecting the complete box set of COVID infections. But here we are, getting it done. And there are a bunch more to come because, naturally, I've got a huge backlog from all these delays, so let's get down to it. The Winwing Orion is, relatively speaking, a newcomer to the HOTAS world. Winwing itself is a rather new player in the industry after all, only being around in this niche for a few years. It is quite obvious by its price point, level of quality, its footprint, and even its look, that this device was meant to be a direct competitor for the Thrustmaster HOTAS Warthog. Is it fair to compare a relatively new product to a product that's been around for over a decade? Well, Thrustmaster still advertises their product as being the gold standard for flight simulation, so they seem to be pretty confident in it still, so I think it's pretty fair. So let's look at the hardware. The Orion is a solid piece, though it weighs a lot less than the Warthog counterpart. The base, handles, and gimbal are all metal, making it extremely rugged. It has dry clutches to provide friction. These clutches are tightened using an Allen tool from above. No disassembly is required. I'm going to quickly run you through the buttons, and for this exercise, I'm going to give you a bit of a button and switch ASMR. Alright, so we're going to be testing each one of the switches here. Along the bottom here, we have 3 Rotary Encoders. And these have a nice click to them. They also have a push button. So all 3 of these are the same along here. On the second row, we have a push button. We have a 3-way switch. We have another push button. We have another 3-way switch. And finally, another 3-way switch. Moving forward, we have a wonderful long throw axis with a detent in the center. You should be able to hear that nice detent. Okay, we have 2 push buttons here. These are for air-to-air, air-to-ground modes when it comes down to the F-18 anyway. These aren't in the stock location, but they are nice to have there. These have a nice click to them, and when the software is running, the on mode brings a light on behind it, and the off mode doesn't. Then we have another encoder here with push. We'll twist that for you. We have another push button. Alright, now up front, I'm going to reach around here. We have 2 position switch. Another 2 position switch. We have a mode selector with push button. We have another 2-way, another 2-way, and then finally a 3-way that is for the flaps that has a different switch type, a different handle, so that it's easy to tell even if you're not looking. Now, as for the axis feels nice and smooth, buttery smooth. And then we have the buttons. So we have a push button here. We have 2 more push buttons up front here. We have a 3-way switch on the back, just like the Warthog. But this one feels a lot better than the Warthog one. A lot better. Okay, we have an analog stick here that has a push button. But this is the part that I really love about the buttons and switches on this, is the hat switches. They feel good. They have just the right amount of push before they click, and the click is tactile. I can feel it through my finger, and I can hear it. This is a speed brake, so when you pull back, it returns. And when you push forward, it stays, so it'll completely retract your speed brake before you reset it. So, that is all the buttons and switches. But outside of what you've seen, this throttle has some additional tricks up its sleeve. It's modular, and Winwing just released the second set of modular grips for this throttle. The first modular grip was the Black Shark Collective, which I'd really like to try out sometime and review, and I plan to do so. But just a few days ago, Winwing released the F16 throttle grip for the Orion Throttle, and boy does it look nice, and I really want one. This gives the Orion a Swiss Army knife ability to provide you with whatever type of grip or experience that you want with your throttle. So now that we've seen the throttle, and we're soothed by its clicky buttons and switches, let's see how it flies. This footage is from the 200mm extension review, as not only did it feature the extension, but I'm also using the Orion Throttle.
Ready, pre-contact. Cleared contact. Contact. You're taking fuel.
As anyone has done aerial refueling knows that you've got to cycle your throttle to maintain position. This throttle does the job well. Though it's not particularly designed to be a helicopter collective, by using the pull back to increase the collective setup, it works alright at it. I'll get the collective grip as soon as I can, folks, and give it a thorough review. The hats and buttons work great in any module, but have done very well for me as I've flown helicopters. So as we watch some more of this helicopter mission, let's talk about the pros and cons. For the pros, number 1, this thing has a rugged, well-built, high-quality feel to it. Every part of the device that you'd think should or could be made of metal is. Now, being made of metal, it doesn't automatically mean it is of high quality. Looking at you, Warthog stick base. But as for the Orion, it seems like this might be true in this case. Number 2, the switches, buttons, and hats, they feel great. Some of the best switches and buttons I've felt in a high-end flight hardware. The hat switches are the very best I've ever felt. They have this give to them before they click, and the click is tactile and wonderful. It even sounds nice. VKB hats have some of the same feeling, but the push has less padding to it, and the click is a little bit less defined. Number 3, this is the best pro of them all. This thing is the ultimate in customization. Right now, they've got the original Hornet throttles, and a collective, and now the F16 throttle, but the sky is really the limit on where they can go with this device. The base is solid, and a great system to build off of. And now for the cons. Remember that even good products still have some cons. Number 1, the dry clutches can be adjusted from the outside of the device. This is good, but the clutches seem to be a little bit too catchy when they're tightened down. Not that they have rough spots or anything like that, but properly set up clutch for a joystick should feel kind of like butter, but it's going to be more viscous butter the tighter you have it tightened, if that makes sense. I think the problem could be corrected by using a bit of lubricant. I ordered some high quality silicone lubricant for servicing my VKB devices, and I disassembled the gimbal as far as I was willing to take a brand new throttle down, and I couldn't find a really logical way of lubricating these clutches. I've tried to squeeze a bit down into the clutches with no avail. Perhaps a video on how to service these things, like those found on the VKB website for their Gunfighter or even their NZXT series, would be a good thing, Winwing. Number 2, the button caps on the red push buttons on the base, they just don't fit with the rest of the joystick. Perhaps some effort could have been given to finding some button caps that would maybe look better. I know you could say that this is a bit nitpicky, and perhaps it is, but for both the looks and the feel perspective, I don't really like them. Maybe I'll 3D print some button caps and collars to make them look better. We'll see. Number 3, the cables. Winwing uses these cables to connect between the base of the stick and the grip. These cables constantly flex. Every time you push or pull the throttle, they're flexing. And anytime you've got a cable that's constantly flexing, you're going to eventually end up with a failure of said cables. Winwing states that these cables are rated in excess of 1 million flexes. But this is something that I see, and I just feel like there had to be a better way to implement this. Now, I don't want you to freak out about this con, because it sounds bad, but the truth of the matter is it's probably okay. It's just something that I see it and think, boy, I'd really love those to be internalized. The fact of the matter is, even if they were internalized, they would still be flexing. Inside your Warthog throttle, guess what you got? You got flexing cables down at the bottom inside the gimbal. It's just how it goes. I think that it's a constructive thing that when you give criticisms to a particular device, that you try to come up with a recommendation, some kind of a solution. You can't always have a solution for it, but I really try to give some kind of a recommendation to the manufacturer. So, as for recommendations for Winwing for this device, in a future version maybe, make another polish pass on it for the buttons, and making those clutches serviceable, or at least more heavily greased from the factory. I really can't think of anything beyond that. At its intended role, the Orion succeeds very well. The throttle has all of the features everybody wanted in the Warthog, without any of the downsides. It has higher quality gimbals, switches, and hats. It has an analog stick that doesn't make me want to throw it off of a cliff. And it feels great to use. So with all that said, do I recommend you buy the Winwing Orion Throttle? Absolutely, I do. I give it my 100% stamp of approval. And I have been on forums and groups and Discord saying it. I hang out in many of these places to try to do my best to help people out to get the best flight sim products that they can. And if anyone is looking to buy in the price range of a Warthog, I've been directing them to the Orion. And I recommend that you do so as well. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. It took me a long time to make. To say, using this throttle has been a pleasure, and I plan to keep using it until someday I find something better. When that day comes, you'll know it, because I'll let you all know on this channel. I'll be releasing another video very soon on the MonsterTech long mounts you've been seeing in the past couple of months. After that, I plan to do the State of the Channel for 2022, and we'll be getting moving on this year's exciting selection of videos, so please stay tuned. And if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe now. Doing so helps me to continue to do this for you all. If you want to support me, please see my Patreon in the description below. I've been doing this almost entirely out of my own pockets, and the support I receive from either YouTube, Patreon, or even the companies sending me products will go right back into the channel. I don't take any money from this. I don't ever expect to really profit from this. This is something I do because I love doing it. Comment in the comment section down below. I read every comment and I respond to most of them. I appreciate all of you, and I really hope that you all have a great day.